Jonathan Everett had never imagined that a routine drive home could spiral into chaos. For 20 years, he had poured every ounce of energy, every sleepless night, into building Everett Innovations into a $200 million empire. The numbers, the contracts, the mergers, they were all under his control, meticulously planned. Yet tonight, as he slid into his sleek black BMW, a strange tension lingered in the air, almost palpable, like the calm before a storm. His mind replayed the day's meetings, the presentations with potential investors, the endless emails he had barely skimmed. Everything was in order, or so he thought. Then came the voice. High-pitched, urgent, shattering the calm he had grown accustomed to in his predictable world. "Shut up and don't say a word." Jonathan froze, hands clutching the keys. His heart pounded, a rhythm he hadn't felt in decades of boardroom battles. Turning slowly, he glanced into the back seat and found himself staring at the wide, frightened eyes of a little girl. She couldn't have been older than 7. Her hair was tangled, her clothes worn and faded, but there was something in her gaze that made him stop questioning, stop hesitating. She was there with a purpose, and he felt it instantly. "They're listening," she whispered, her small finger pointing toward the towering office building behind him. "Your partner and his assistant. They're planning something bad." Jonathan's mind spun. Marcus Reed, his partner for 15 years, the one man he trusted more than anyone, and Diana Foster, the ever-loyal assistant who knew every detail of the company's inner workings, they were plotting against him? It sounded impossible, absurd, almost insane. But the intensity in her voice left no room for doubt. This wasn't a child playing games. This was a warning. Her name was Jasmine. Even in fear, she exuded a spark of defiance, a courage that seemed far beyond her years. Jonathan felt a mixture of disbelief and admiration. How did a girl like this even find herself in his world, in his car, at this critical moment? But there was no time to question that. Her message was urgent, and time was always a luxury he no longer had. "They said tomorrow you won't own anything," Jasmine continued, voice steady now, though trembling at the edges. "They called you stupid. They said you'd sign papers without reading them." Jonathan's blood ran cold. Tomorrow's meeting with Japanese investors wasn't just important, it was pivotal. A $400 million merger could redefine his company's future, secure its dominance, and cement his legacy. And yet, in one chilling instant, he realized the foundation of that future might already be compromised. Marcus and Diana weren't just untrustworthy, they were actively conspiring to strip him of everything he had built. "Why are you telling me this?" Jonathan asked, trying to mask the storm of emotions threatening to consume him. Jasmine's gaze met his, unwavering, fierce, and almost wise beyond her age. "My grandma said when you see someone getting hurt, you help. Because next time, it could be you." There was a gravity to her words that forced him to listen, to believe. In that instant, the weight of trust, betrayal, and danger pressed down on him. He realized how fragile the structures he had built truly were. Contracts, spreadsheets, investments, they meant nothing if the people closest to him could manipulate and destroy them. Her courage, so raw and unpolished, struck a chord within him. Here was a child who had nothing to gain, who had come from the margins of society, yet was willing to stand up against deceit, to take risks for the sake of someone she barely knew. Jonathan felt a surge of protectiveness, a protective instinct that mingled with newfound respect. He realized he couldn't ignore her warning, not for a second. As he processed the implications, he felt his mind sharpen, a clarity born from crisis. Jasmine wasn't just a messenger, she was a catalyst, igniting a determination he hadn't realized he still possessed. He thought of Marcus, smiling in boardrooms, shaking hands, pretending loyalty, and he felt a flicker of anger he had buried for years. The betrayal was personal, deep, and undeniable. Jonathan knew one thing with absolute certainty: he couldn't face this alone. But neither could he dismiss the small figure in his back seat, whose bravery had already shifted the course of events. Jasmine's presence wasn't a coincidence, it was the turning point he had been waiting for, even if he didn't know it. Tonight, everything had changed. And with a child's courage lighting the path forward, Jonathan understood that the fight wasn't just for money or power, it was for truth, for justice, for the preservation of everything he held dear. The storm had arrived, and for the first time in years, he felt alive in the face of it. Jasmine's words settled over Jonathan like a weight he hadn't felt in years. He had dealt with boardroom betrayals before, people seeking advantage in the shadows, but nothing felt as personal, as gut-wrenching, as the revelation that his closest allies were plotting his ruin. The idea that Marcus, the man he had trusted for over a decade, could smile at him while scheming to strip him of everything he had built was a knife twisting in his chest. And Diana, the ever-efficient assistant who had managed every detail of his life, whose loyalty had always seemed unquestionable, she was complicit. Yet it was not just the shock of betrayal that made Jonathan uneasy. It was the clarity with which Jasmine spoke, the precision of her warning. She had overheard Marcus and Diana, memorized their cruel laughter, their mocking words about his gullibility. They said you'd sign anything without reading it, she had said, and Jonathan could hear the venom in their imagined voices, the contempt for him as a businessman and as a person. The thought made his blood boil. For years, he had prided himself on being sharp, methodical, always 3 steps ahead. Yet these two had been moving in his blind spots, counting on his trust as a shield for their treachery. And then there was Jasmine herself. She was small, vulnerable in appearance, but there was a fire in her that defied her age. She wasn't trembling in fear or pleading for safety. She was giving him information, directing him to act, making him realize that the power to counter the threat lay within his grasp, but only if he dared to use it. My grandma said when you see someone getting hurt, you help, she repeated, her words simple yet profound. It was as though wisdom had been distilled into her 7-year-old frame, a purity of intention that no grown-up in the corporate world could claim. Jonathan felt an unexpected surge of respect for the child. She had entered his life unannounced, unafraid, armed only with knowledge and a sense of right. It made him confront a painful truth: he had underestimated vulnerability, underestimated courage in its smallest form. He had assumed that power, wealth, and experience would always protect him. Yet here was a child, with no formal authority, showing him that bravery came in many forms, and sometimes the most unassuming voices carried the heaviest weight. As he absorbed Jasmine's words, the stakes became impossibly clear. The meeting with Japanese investors, scheduled for the following day, wasn't merely a financial milestone. It was a potential trap. Marcus and Diana had manipulated the documents, orchestrated the meeting, and positioned Jonathan as the unwitting signatory for their plan. Every handshake, every nod, every polite smile he had anticipated would be a step closer to surrendering his empire without a fight. And the thought that he could have walked blindly into that trap ignited a resolve he hadn't felt since the company's earliest, scrappy days, when he had clawed his way from nothing. Jonathan realized that action was urgent. There was no time for doubt, no room for hesitation. The betrayal was intimate, and intimate betrayals demanded intimate knowledge to counter. He had to uncover the full extent of Marcus and Diana's plan before they struck. Yet he couldn't do it alone. That was where Jasmine's presence became indispensable. She had the information, the courage to speak truth to power, and a connection to the world outside his controlled environment, the world where survival often demanded quick thinking and audacity. She was the spark he needed to ignite his next move. For a moment, he studied her, noticing the determination etched in the small lines of her face, the way her eyes refused to waver. It was a stark contrast to the polished deceit of Marcus and Diana. Their scheme was born from calculation, manipulation, and self-interest, whereas Jasmine's courage was instinctive, born from empathy and the desire to protect someone in danger. Jonathan understood then that strength was not measured in wealth or status alone, it was measured in the willingness to act, to stand against injustice even when the odds were staggering. He made a silent promise. He would not be a pawn. He would not let trust be weaponized against him. And he would protect Jasmine, whose bravery had already altered the course of his fate. This small child, who had appeared so suddenly in his life, had entrusted him with knowledge that could save everything he held dear. To ignore her would be both a personal and moral failure, one he could not afford. The realization sharpened his focus. Every detail would matter, every contract, every financial document, every recorded conversation. He would need allies, sharp minds, people who could unravel deceit as efficiently as Marcus and Diana had woven it. But more than that, he would need the courage to act decisively, to confront betrayal without hesitation. And that courage, he now knew, could be found not only in himself but in the smallest, most unexpected places. As Jasmine continued to speak, explaining what she had overheard, Jonathan felt a sense of purpose crystallize within him. He understood that the fight ahead would test his intellect, his resilience, and his moral compass. And yet, he also knew that with Jasmine's courage illuminating the path, the seemingly impossible might just be within reach. Together, they would uncover the truth, confront treachery, and ensure that justice was served. And in that moment, Jonathan realized something more profound. The world might be filled with betrayal, but it was also filled with courage, sometimes in the most unexpected of forms. And that courage, he knew, was worth fighting for. Jonathan had always trusted his instincts, but nothing had prepared him for the depth of deceit he was about to uncover. Marcus and Diana weren't just careless or greedy, they were meticulous, calculating, and patient, weaving a web of lies so intricate that it had almost gone unnoticed. Jonathan realized that the battle to save his company, his fortune, and his dignity wouldn't be fought with charm or negotiation, it would require precision, evidence, and relentless determination. And Jasmine, with her unexpected courage, had become the key to unlocking the truth. He reached out to Gabriel Torres, a private investigator whose reputation for uncovering the unseen had earned him both admiration and envy in equal measure. Gabriel had once been trusted by Marcus and Diana, but they had sidelined him, dismissing his warnings and undermining his work. Yet his sharp mind, unyielding focus, and understanding of human deception made him indispensable now. Jonathan didn't waste time recounting the betrayal in detail. He simply introduced Jasmine, and the child's calm yet unflinching recounting of overheard conversations spoke volumes. Gabriel's eyes widened as she explained the words she had heard, the hidden threats, and the mocking laughter that had cut through the office that night. Together, the trio began to piece together the evidence, every fragment revealing the magnitude of the conspiracy. Marcus and Diana had siphoned millions from Everett Innovations, redirecting funds through shell companies and fabricated contracts. Every invoice, every bank transfer, every signature had been manipulated to create an illusion of legitimacy while concealing their theft. The merger, which had seemed like a golden opportunity, was nothing more than a cover for laundering money, a clever trap designed to make Jonathan unknowingly authorize their crimes. Each discovery brought a mix of anger, disbelief, and a steely resolve to fight back. Jasmine listened intently as Gabriel explained the complexities, her eyes bright with understanding. Despite her youth, she grasped the enormity of the deception. When Gabriel spoke of forged signatures and secret bank accounts, she nodded knowingly, her small voice cutting through the tension with simple, defiant remarks. "They think you're a dog who'll roll over. But dogs can bite," she said, and in that moment, Jonathan felt a surge of empowerment. The child's perspective, so untainted by corporate cynicism, reminded him that courage didn't require authority, it required action, determination, and the refusal to be intimidated. Jonathan's anger, once simmering beneath polite facades, now boiled. The betrayal was not abstract, it was personal. Marcus's carefully constructed image of loyalty was a lie, and Diana's devoted assistance had masked manipulations that could have destroyed everything Jonathan had built. Every spreadsheet, every financial statement, every carefully worded contract now bore the shadow of their deceit. The realization sharpened his focus, transforming fear into a weapon. He would not allow himself to be outmaneuvered. He would reclaim his empire, not just for wealth, but for the principle of justice itself. The more they delved into the evidence, the clearer it became that Marcus and Diana had been plotting for years. The meticulous nature of their scheme revealed their arrogance. They had assumed Jonathan's trust was blind, that his reliance on loyalty and professional respect would prevent him from questioning their actions. But the child in his car, Jasmine, had shattered that illusion. Her courage had exposed the vulnerability in the betrayer's plan, and now, armed with Gabriel's expertise and her insights, Jonathan could turn the tide. With each revelation, Jonathan's determination solidified. He understood that confronting the betrayal would require strategy, patience, and an unflinching eye for detail. He could not rush, he could not act recklessly. Every move had to be calculated, every countermeasure precise. Gabriel's guidance was invaluable, providing not just investigative skill but a perspective untarnished by emotional bias. Together, they traced the financial manipulations, mapped the networks of deception, and documented every word, every transaction, every moment of treachery. Jasmine's presence continued to be a source of strength. While adults might hesitate, weigh risks endlessly, and fear confrontation, she faced the truth directly. Her bravery was contagious, giving Jonathan the courage to confront not just the immediate threat but the years of betrayal that had festered unseen. Her words echoed in his mind, "When you see someone getting hurt, you help. Because next time, it could be you." That principle became his guiding force, reminding him that justice required action and that courage could come from the smallest of allies. By the time they had unraveled the majority of Marcus and Diana's plan, Jonathan felt a clarity he hadn't experienced in years. The full extent of their greed and deception was laid bare, and he realized that the next step was inevitable: confrontation. But now he was armed with evidence, strategy, and an unshakable sense of purpose. The betrayer's arrogance had blinded them to the possibility that Jonathan could fight back, that justice could be restored. In those hours of relentless investigation, Jonathan discovered something deeper than financial fraud. He discovered the resilience within himself, the strength to face deceit without fear, and the value of unexpected alliances. Jasmine, the child who had entered his life by chance, had illuminated the path forward, reminding him that courage and integrity often appear where least expected. And as the pieces fell into place, Jonathan felt a quiet certainty: Marcus and Diana's betrayal, carefully orchestrated and long concealed, was about to meet its match. The empire they sought to manipulate would not only survive, it would rise stronger, guided by a renewed commitment to truth, justice, and the unexpected heroism of a small but fearless child. Jonathan felt the weight of what was to come pressing against him, a mixture of anticipation, determination, and controlled fury. Marcus and Diana had underestimated him, assumed his trust would be his undoing, and dismissed his intellect as if loyalty alone made a man blind. They had no idea that every move they thought was hidden had been catalogued, documented, and prepared for exposure. Jonathan's heart beat with a steady rhythm, each pulse reinforcing the clarity of his purpose. This was not just about reclaiming wealth or control, it was about justice, about proving that deception could not thrive unchallenged. He had anticipated their arrogance, their expectation that he would sign blindly, trusting years of familiarity. But he also knew that patience and evidence were stronger than intimidation. Every transaction, every forged signature, every whisper of betrayal was now a weapon in his hands. Marcus and Diana had assumed he was oblivious, but Jonathan was about to show them the cost of underestimating someone who refused to be a pawn. The moment of reckoning arrived, though not as a sudden explosion but as the culmination of meticulous planning. Jonathan, armed with the results of their investigation, felt a sense of calm control that contrasted sharply with the chaos of his emotions. He thought of Jasmine, the child whose courage had illuminated the path, and felt a renewed sense of responsibility. Her bravery had initiated this journey, and now, it was his turn to act decisively. Every detail mattered. Every piece of evidence had to be undeniable. The betrayal had to be confronted not with speculation but with proof so clear that even arrogance could not deny it. As the confrontation unfolded, Jonathan could see the cracks forming in Marcus and Diana's confidence. Their smiles, once polished and confident, faltered under the weight of undeniable truth. Jonathan presented the evidence with precision, each bank transfer, each fraudulent contract, each manipulated document laid bare. The arrogance that had once emboldened them now met a wall of irrefutable fact. Every word they had spoken in secrecy, every laugh and insult directed at him, was catalogued and exposed. Jonathan could feel the power shift, the once hidden betrayal now forced into the light where it could no longer survive. And then Jasmine stepped forward, small yet unwavering, her presence commanding attention far beyond her size. She held Jonathan's phone, where she had captured the confessions, the conversations, and the taunts, the recorded proof of Marcus and Diana's duplicity. Her courage, unshaken by the danger or the tension, reinforced Jonathan's resolve. It was a reminder that fearlessness often comes in unexpected forms, and that the truth, when wielded with precision and moral clarity, has the power to dismantle even the most carefully constructed lies. The weight of betrayal was palpable as the evidence unfolded, each revelation stripping away the layers of deceit Marcus and Diana had relied upon. Jonathan's anger, once simmering beneath professional composure, transformed into focused determination. He did not speak with malice or revenge, his words carried the authority of truth and justice. The audacity of the betrayers, their expectation that manipulation and deceit would prevail, crumbled in the face of facts that could not be denied or ignored. In that pivotal moment, Jonathan understood that victory was not merely a matter of reclaiming control. It was a reaffirmation of principles he had held dear, the recognition that courage, integrity, and vigilance could overcome even the most insidious betrayal. Marcus and Diana's fall was not a spectacle of humiliation alone. It was a testament to the resilience of someone who refused to allow deceit to dictate the outcome. Jonathan's calm certainty was a reflection of years of experience, sharpened by betrayal but guided by unshakable moral clarity. Jasmine's role in the confrontation went beyond mere testimony. Her presence symbolized the unexpected sources of strength that can emerge in moments of crisis. Her courage had initiated the unraveling of deception, reminding Jonathan that true allies can appear in the most surprising forms. The combination of his strategic acumen and her fearless determination created a force that Marcus and Diana could neither anticipate nor withstand. Their plan, meticulously designed and long nurtured, collapsed under scrutiny, proving that no scheme, no matter how cleverly constructed, can survive when confronted with clarity, courage, and undeniable truth. By the time the confrontation reached its conclusion, Jonathan felt a sense of justice fulfilled, a vindication not rooted in personal vengeance but in the restoration of order and trust. Marcus and Diana, stripped of their arrogance and schemes, had no defense against the evidence that exposed their betrayal. Jonathan's empire, once threatened by duplicity, now stood fortified not only by wealth but by the reaffirmation of integrity, vigilance, and the unexpected courage of a small yet fearless ally. Through this decisive reckoning, Jonathan realized that the true power of confrontation lies not in aggression, intimidation, or retaliation, but in preparation, clarity, and the moral authority that comes from standing firmly on the side of truth. The betrayal that had once seemed insurmountable was now a testament to resilience, strategic thinking, and the extraordinary impact of courage, no matter the source. Jasmine's bravery, intertwined with Jonathan's experience and determination, ensured that the betrayer's arrogance would meet a force it could not overcome. After the storm of betrayal had passed, Jonathan felt a profound sense of relief, but it was tinged with something deeper, a realization of what truly mattered. The victory over Marcus and Diana was not measured in millions recovered or contracts secured, it was measured in integrity restored, trust reclaimed, and the acknowledgement that courage could appear in the most unexpected forms. Jasmine, the small child who had entered his life in a moment of chaos, had not only saved him from ruin but had revealed a new path forward, one that combined responsibility, family, and the power of doing what was right. Jonathan watched as Everett Innovation stabilized, free from the parasites who had tried to exploit it. The company's growth accelerated, its reputation solidified, and its future was brighter than ever. Yet none of this compared to the personal triumph that had emerged from the ordeal. Jasmine, once a frightened and wary child, had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and unwavering courage. In her, Jonathan recognized not just a protector of his company, but a reflection of the values he had long held dear: justice, loyalty, and the drive to stand up for what was right. Digging into Jasmine's past, Jonathan discovered a connection he hadn't anticipated. She was the granddaughter of his long-lost cousin, Josephine Everett. The revelation transformed the narrative of their relationship. This was no longer a story of chance, it was a story of family, of bonds rediscovered and strengthened in the crucible of crisis. The knowledge deepened Jonathan's sense of responsibility toward her, compelling him to ensure her future was secure, nurtured, and full of opportunities he wished she had never had to fight for. The adoption was not merely a legal formality, it was a declaration of belonging, of trust, and of a new beginning. Jasmine officially became Jasmine Everett, and with that name came the recognition of her place in Jonathan's life and legacy. At 12 years old, she carried the spirit of courage and empathy into every endeavor, embodying the lessons learned from the night that had changed everything. Her initiative to lead a scholarship program for vulnerable children demonstrated that her bravery was not limited to survival or protecting others in moments of crisis. She had grown into a figure of mentorship, using her experiences to empower others, just as she had empowered Jonathan. Jonathan reflected on the irony and beauty of the journey. The night he had encountered Jasmine in his car, a night filled with fear, uncertainty, and the threat of betrayal, had become the turning point of his life. Through her eyes, he had rediscovered the importance of vigilance, moral clarity, and the willingness to act decisively. But he had also learned that courage could transcend age, experience, and circumstance. The bravery of a 7-year-old had changed the trajectory of a man whose life was defined by business acumen and financial strategy. It was a humbling and profoundly inspiring lesson. Their relationship evolved into something extraordinary. Jonathan was not just a benefactor or guardian, he was a mentor, a parent, and a partner in building a legacy that honored integrity over greed. Jasmine, with her fearless curiosity and unwavering commitment to justice, challenged him to think beyond the boardroom, beyond contracts and mergers, into the realm of human impact and meaningful change. Together, they navigated the complexities of life, business, and family, forging a bond that was stronger than any obstacle. The gala celebrating the launch of the scholarship program was more than a public display, it was a testament to the transformative power of courage, empathy, and the unexpected allies who shape our lives. Jasmine spoke with confidence, her words carrying the weight of experience far beyond her years. "The best day of my life was when I climbed into your car," she said. "I wasn't just saving your company, I was finding our family." Jonathan felt a surge of pride and humility, recognizing that true success is measured not in wealth, power, or revenge, but in the relationships forged and the lives positively impacted. Looking back, Jonathan understood that Marcus and Diana's betrayal, as devastating as it had seemed, had revealed deeper truths about resilience, trust, and the human spirit. The ordeal had forced him to confront not just the dishonesty of others, but also his assumptions, his vulnerabilities, and his capacity for courage under pressure. Jasmine's role in this journey was a constant reminder that even the smallest, most unexpected voices can spark change, illuminate truth, and inspire action that reshapes lives. The legacy they built together extended far beyond the walls of Everett Innovations. The scholarship program, mentorship initiatives, and the continued nurturing of Jasmine's talents were all part of a vision that prioritized justice, courage, and empathy. Jonathan realized that the greatest victories are not won in boardrooms or through legal battles, they are won in hearts, through the enduring impact of nurturing, guiding, and standing up for what is right. In the end, Jonathan and Jasmine's story was one of redemption, courage, and the enduring power of family. It was proof that even in the darkest moments, light can emerge from the most unexpected places. The child who had entered his life in a moment of chaos had not only saved his company but had changed his life, teaching him that true legacy is measured not by wealth or revenge, but by the love, integrity, and courage shared with those who matter most. If this story of courage, betrayal, and unexpected family touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Unseen Struggle. Here, we bring you real-life tales that inspire, move, and remind us that even in the darkest moments, courage and integrity can change everything. Stay tuned for more stories of resilience, hope, and life-changing bravery. Remember, the greatest victories often come from the most unexpected allies. Subscribe now and join our journey through the unseen struggles that shape our world.